Greetings everyone! Today I'm gonna do an in-depth review of the electronics found in the so-called shehds 12x3W RGBW mini LED PAR that is sold on Aliexpress for around $10 by shehds and all other brands that sell this type of LED PAR under different names like Uking or without any brand label whatsoever for roughly the same price. I will first go over the case, then the internal structure, followed by a quick analysis of the separate parts in the LED PAR. This one will be a little bit shorter since I wasn't able to do efficiency measurements this time. At the end, I will summarize the info I found out and will tell you what my opinion of this miniature LED PAR is. Most importantly, I will do a comparison to the shehds 12x12W RGBW LED PAR I reviewed last time. Let's go! The PAR arrived in one piece and took only 4 days from the Czech warehouse to me. As most of you probably guessed, the LED PAR works. It is not that bright, but since it got a very narrow cone, it's quite visible, even under medium sunlight. That is inside, mind you. The first important information is that the LEDs are not RGBW, but they are 3 red, 3 green, 3 blue and 3 white LEDs, which makes the beam seem not that uniform. Light output is good for the size, light quality lets something to be desired. As always, the fan is quite loud and nerve-wracking. The dimmer curve is good and there is a nice gradient between 0 and 255. Looking to the inside, there is a tiny power supply that puts 10.4 volts into the dimmer board. The dimmer board then in turn sends the power to the LED board. The LEDs are again mounted on a custom-made aluminum PCB, which is the heatsink. For such a small amount of LED power, this is okay. The fan is mounted directly above the LED PCB. Now to the hardware. The case is surprisingly sturdy. That is due to the plastic being 0.4 to 0.7 millimeters thicker than in the reference 12x12W design. However, also the compact and intelligent design leads to a stiffer casing, like a tongue and groove connection between the front LED part of the case and the main back part. It is still a bad looking case due to the bad molding job itself, but it gets the job done of protecting the inners. This case may barely be able to withstand a person standing on it, so this is a plus. The metal bracket, however, is very horrible, and anyone who has a bit of a destructive vein will destroy this thing in seconds. The screws are flimsy as well. And this is indeed one single bracket, and thus the PAR can't be put on the ground, or at least it has to lean against something. That is unfortunate, since I could imagine this thing being great, for example, for lighting the exits of the auditorium, and thus the need for standing it on the ground. You can find a lovely ZE and ROHS sticker on the back, and as stated, these are not real CE certifications. This PAR is not allowed to be used and imported to Europe. I don't know how they managed to get multiple pallets of those to a Czech warehouse, which is inside of the EU. Also, there are multiple informations missing, like the company address and some other things required by EU law. It's not that hard to put those things on the PAR, so only negligence can be the reason for that. Let's focus on the fan. It is very loud, which is strange since it does not need to spin that hard. The LEDs don't produce a whole lot of heat anyway. I tamed the fan with 2 68 ohm resistors in series as a short-time solution. An active step-down board would be better, but don't just disconnect the fan altogether. A bit of airflow is necessary. As always, let's take a deeper look at the LEDs. As stated, there are 3 red, 3 green and 3 blue and 3 white LEDs. They are all wired up separately with a common plus terminal, running the LEDs at my standard MagSafe voltages of 2.2 volts for the red. By the way, yes, I changed that from 2.6 to 2.2 and 3.6 volts for all the others. The red LEDs got a power of 0.59 watts. The green 1.98 watts, the blue 2.63 watt and the white one 2.52. Always the power per LED. That means the red LEDs are miles away from being 3 watt, while green is 1/3 away and blue and white are quite close. I will give them a pass on the red and the green ones, since to produce an amount X of light of red light to be precise, you need less energy than for blue, including the fact that your eyes reach max light sensitivity at green colors. We can understand why the light seems quite harmonic, even though the power of the LEDs is so drastically different. Saying 12 times 3 watt is obviously BS, but I can see that they don't want to get into the topic of light sensitivity and energy at different wavelengths in an AliExpress item description. Still, anything other than stating this thing had 12 times 3 watt would have been more honest. Like stating the max power correctly, for example. 36 watts in total is just idiotic. Then I proceeded to use my crazily intelligent measurement procedure for measuring the actual power the LEDs get driven at. This meant that I first measured the current at a DMX value of 255. Secondly, connect the lab bench power supply to the LEDs. Third, set the actual power of the red LEDs is 0.08 watts. Green 0.37 watt, blue 0.55 watt, and white 0.32 watt. That is somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 18% of what is advertised, and thus equally bad as the 12 times 12 watt shehds LED PAR I reviewed last time. That means that this is the same old story of claiming more than is actually available. I did an efficiency analysis. Unfortunately, I was not able to do this time. This is due to the fact that first, I destroyed the dimmer board in the process of testing, and secondly, my mains power meter is only giving me full watt numbers, and I don't have any information after the point. At so low powers, this means a big error, so there won't be any efficiency evaluations this time, but I would not expect it to be much better than last time. One thing to note here, the PSU is on paper just barely not capable of driving the LEDs at their full power, since 10.4 volts is just smaller than 10.8 volts. But since the dimmer brings a huge amount of voltage drop to the system, the PSU is definitely underpowered. In contrast to last time, the internal wiring is okay, and no black cable was misused as being positive. Well, okay, one black cable was misused as plus, but that's for the LEDs. And there it is okay, as it is a common electrode. Unfortunately, the absolute idiotic tradition of just not wanting to connect the color-coded wires to the LEDs of corresponding color continues. Please ignore my horrible solder job for the plus wires, by the way. And with that, we come to the wrap-up. How is this LED PAR? The positives are quite long this time. As last time, it works, which is gladly welcomed. We got a usable case that won't be destroyed just by looking at it. We got a narrow beam angle. There is, from my point of view, no fire and health hazard. However, I'm far away from calling this thing safe and would not run it unattended or on any truss where it can't be accessed. At a price of $10, it delivers quite much. But no pro list would be there without a con list. And this one is again not very small. Narrow beam angle has to be part of this list again, as it always depends on your use case whether or not this is a positive or a negative thing. Then it continues with there only being one metal bracket included and the fan being way too loud. Certifications are missing, the LEDs are driven at 3 to 18% of their advertised power, a non-uniform light beam due to separately colored LEDs, and lastly the PSU being underpowered. This leaves us with the following. The manufacturer delivers a solid power for special usage. They can be used for lighting, corridors and doors, or as a background lighting for filming videos. For usage on the stage, they are underpowered, and only by using several of them you could put some serious effect on a stage. Put closely besides each other, they might be good for some moving light effects though. However, keep in mind that the colors are not that uniform because of the separately colored LEDs. Compared to the shehds 12x12 watt RGBW LED PAR, this PAR delivers way less pure light output per money spent. However, it delivers a well-rounded package for small occasions. And there are not so many horrible trade-offs. One thing you will have to tweak is the fan. For stage light, this is not as important since music is running. However, for special occasions and filming, you will need an almost silent light. The resistor method is quite easy to realize, but a step-down converter would be more advisable. In comparison to brand lights, you could look at the Eurolight LED Party spot, which looks to be the same. Unfortunately, I was not able to get my hands on one of them and open it up to see if they are actually the same. I would assume so. But I was able to open a fun generation LED pot 12 x 1 watt RGBW LED PAR from Thomann, a German importer from China and seller of brand stage equipment. The internals of this PAR seem to be way more solid and it is silent. However, it looks like it uses the same LEDs, or at least the same LED arrangement as the shehds one. Since my buddy wouldn't be so keen on me destroying his fixtures for testing, I did not do that, and thus I can't give you an exact electrical measurement. Would I recommend this PAR? I will give it a very faint yes. For the right occasion, yes. I would not trust it to keep running for many years, but it will work for some time and it is cheap. And since the price is 1/3 of what you would pay to Eurolight for possibly the exact same PAR, there is something to be said about the cost of a brand name. There's just one last catch. You have to replace the horrible power cable. The one attached to the PAR is so horribly thin that this was my first action when getting the PAR. This means if you don't feel comfortable of changing a mains power cable, you will not buy this PAR. And don't be tempted messing with mains power. If you don't know what you're doing, it can kill you deadly. Thank you for listening and see you in the next review. Bye.